I forget the next couple lines, but then it goes, Secret tunnel, through the mountains, secret tunnel, yeah.
So good afternoon, handy viewers, handy listeners, such as you are. Apologies to the chap that hates it whenever I say that. Sorry, it's a thing. I am joined once more by my erstwhile companions, Mr. Connor Rooney.
Hello!
He says it at the same time every way, it's weird. And Mr. Ben Harris.
Hello!
that was not your best impression. That was worse. That was not your best impression. Clear your throat, mate. We'll give it another go later. So, out of nowhere, seemingly, we have a full card for a lady whose artwork we saw at SteamCon UK. We have got Spade. I did surprise Spade. So welcome to episode 2 of Secret Tunnel, my little guide to the miners, and I've gathered the brain trust, such as they are, because allegedly, miners, they're going to be a footballing guild. There's a thing I know nothing about. So, gentlemen, I imagine 2-inch melee on strikers. That's a thing you like. Connor, you're always fish. You can't get away from them. Is 2-inch melee on a striker like the super most important thing in the world that everyone makes it out to be?
Pretty much, yeah.
Moving on. No, no, go on.
It's hugely helpful. It's, I mean, with strikers, you've got a pretty clear job of get the ball, put the ball in the net, and 1-inch melee strikers have an inbuilt weakness to that just because they're more liable to counterattacks, unpredictable movement, and other stuff like that, especially if they don't have a viable dodge, which technically this model doesn't.
Yeah, there are no dodges on this model. It's a striker without dodges. How could she possibly work? I also guess now that more of the counter charges in the game are either not seen or are 1-inch melees, it's even more important. Like against Pride and against Brick, a 2-inch melee model is going to have a wonderful time against counter-charging models. Fair?
Yeah, I think it's better for sure. And just the fact that you can, if they've got the ball on someone, you can reach that person from further away from the counter-charge model. So it's harder to protect a model with the ball with counter-charge, even if you do have a tenderizer type.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's fair to say I don't really want to spend too much time on that. Turns out 2-inch reach better than 1-inch reach. Who knew? This is the kind of tactical insight that Beard Prod is proud to bring you. Movement 4-6. That's not fast. Certainly Bolt and Bonesaw are the only other people kind of in that area with the 4-6 striker.
And Horizon
5-7 now, isn't he?
Say again?
Is Bonesaw a 5-7?
You are,
now?
yeah. He's gone down from a 6-8 to a 5-7. Yeah, and Horizon, of course, he's got that 5-inch dodge.
Yep.
Attack 4 for a striker, pretty standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great. You don't
Same
love
as Mist,
seeing
same
it,
as
but
Flint.
yeah.
Mist, Flint, Brisket. He said the original Briskets. He said
I
questionably.
think so.
You can tell we played lots of butchers. No, she's TAC 5. Moving on.
Yeah. She used to be TAC 4.
That's
But then when she lost to the princess thing, she got it. TAC 5.
we've just been around for ages. Well, you have. Friday TAC 4. So yeah, fairly common for a striker. Vitriol. Ben, you play the Lab Rats.
Attack 5.
TAC 5, there we go. Alright, so bad, or at least on the bad side.
It's alright.
Better than the mascots. 3-8 kick, that's healthy. I don't like 6-inch strikers. I don't know, personally.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's more of a tap-in thing.
Yeah.
Like, rather than a range thing, because most strikers have some degree of shenanigans for positioning, so it's more like a dice math rather. That said, Scather, she can go wherever she wants. Death 4-1, healthy for a striker.
That's good.
Yeah, very nice. Like that, especially the armor. 5-1 would be better, but then, who wouldn't want that? Pointing out the obvious again, Beard Pod, ahead of Tactical Acumen. 2-4 influence, fine. 4 long playbook, non-momentous damage at the top and the bottom, tackle, push, and push, dodge being the momentous results. That, to me, looks all right as a person that is terrible at the football kind of game. But yeah, I thought you might make some kind of noise, Connor.
I think her playbook is the worst thing on her card.
Okay.
Which also goes to state how good everything else on her card is. But not having a dodge until the third column on a striker kind of reduces her goal threat to lower than you'd think it would be, especially in situations where you need to dodge around someone. Momentous tackle on 1 is nice, but it has everything you really need on there, but there's nothing special. It's definitely one of the weaker striker playbooks.
Have we been spoiled by Navigator playbooks?
This does look a bit like a Navigator playbook, to be honest with you.
Oh,
except the momentum.
Yeah, the momentum. It looks more like a Mason one.
Because you've got to get quite high to get anything good. But to be honest with you, saying this now, not having gone through it, but the momentous tackle on 1 seems to me to be the only thing you'd go into that playbook for.
Yeah, and I mean, admittedly, most people, what they want to do, if you're doing like kickoff pressure, which I certainly think this lady could do, is wrap. And, if you're getting 5 net hits on 8 dice, which doesn't seem out of this world, depending on who you're going into, a momentous tackle, momentous push dodge does that traditional, I'm going to steal a ball and go away.
Optimistic to me.
It does seem optimistic, but where I think I'll come back to sort of where I think that playbook is slightly more redeeming in a bit, because I want to have a look at her character plays. Number 1, diggy hole for I am a dwarf. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, like the silence that is coming across my headphones from Connor and Ben, go to YouTube, type in Diggy Hole. The Steam forged pop culture referencing continues with this play. This is absurd in the best possible way. I have an enormous grin on my face while saying that. The fact that this lady has a second 2-inch place, because of course, like all miners, she has the secret tunnel, another pop culture reference that Ben and Connor have no idea about. The fact that she can secret tunnel out of engagement, walk up to someone with the ball, get a momentous tackle, spoiler alert, close control on the counter attack, and then move out again with a 2-inch place to take an 8 shot from 8 inches away. That seems all right to me. I won't lie.
And it gets a bit better with the next play as well. Just looking at it, I'm like, yes, please.
Like, I want to come back to controlled explosion. Temper your excitement for just a moment, Panzer. Like, Diggy Hole seems really... The ability to do that twice, like I said, and just casually up to someone 6 inches away, take the ball, and either then bounce out and pass or bounce out and shoot, is that not going to replicate all of the things that I would normally do with a striker that wants to charge, hit the momentous tackle, double disengage, and away? Is this not just as good?
I mean...
You remember how excited we got? You remember how excited we got about Vile Swarm and Scatter?
Yeah.
And now, hello.
This is
We've
better.
Got a model that does it twice and further.
It goes further. It's better. It reminds me almost of like Jack Straw. But
yeah, she is kind of Jack Straw-like actually, in that her playbook's not great. Her low tack's a problem, but she's so unbelievably mobile. Yeah. That if you get her the ball, she can just lock in a goal from so far away. Yeah. And there's really nothing you can do about it because she doesn't really care about countercharge. She doesn't really care about engagements and auras. Nice. So much like Jack Straw, if you can keep him safe in goal threat, you just can't stop the goal.
Yeah.
Or at least the attempt. Obviously, you can miss it.
Like, as a Morts player, I'm really glad Vet Graves exists. Because, like, having him also being a 2-inch range, also having close control and easy access to an early knockdown or push means that I maybe can do something against her. But if I didn't have all of those things on one model, I'd be a little worried.
So the one thing I'll say is she does have some similar weaknesses to other TAC 4 models like Angel or Flint, where if she can't charge, and you're in cover, she's still going to struggle to get that tackle, even on the first column.
But is that
and I
not,
think that's
is that not design space?
Oh, yeah. She would be broken if she had an elite playbook in TAC 5.
Yeah, so she's kind of in line with what we were expecting sort of a striker to be able to do. So it's not like she's ridiculous or anything like. We're not sitting here crying OP. I just think she's going to be able to do all of the things that we kind of fear from like the Mists and the Vitriols and the Fathoms of this world, but just in a slightly different way, and that's cool because it's coming at the game sideways, which I always like, and it's a new design space that fits in alongside an existing game style and mechanic. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I mean, she's got some cool tech to get around. We were talking about goalkeepers, because that's why Skulk's such a pain normally. Because if you dodge, he dodges. But this is a place.
Yes,
that's stand over there.
Very true. Yeah, that is true. I hadn't considered that. Yeah, Skulk in his normal. Why does Skulk appreciation from Connor? I mean, there's nothing to say that she can't do that. That 2-inch, the secret tunnel 2-inch place, and then immediately do the diggy hole again. By which point she's effectively gone 2 inches 30mm base, 2 inches 30mm base, so 6.5 inches away from Skulk, and all of his normal shenanigans don't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Just to note, for people who haven't played Smoke, you cannot snap the ball on a place.
That's
just something to keep in line, where situationally the ball gets knocked loose and you'd be able to place out, go get it. It usually isn't a big deal because you can usually just do things in the other order. But sometimes you can't, and that's just a good thing to keep in mind.
It will catch you out. I can think of my last game. A very similar situation came about. Where an opponent used his advance to stand, and he's like, "Cool," and I'll snap the ball. And I was like, "Well, you've not made an advance."
I had that come up recently as well.
So that bear that in mind, both when playing and playing against her. Cool. Controlled explosion. Controlled explosion is mental. I mean, ostensibly, it's Piper's heroic. Choose a model within 6 inches. That model suffers a 2-inch push. Where it may not, and it was one of those things where kind of like I saw it, and it was just like, one cost character play, cool. It does a little bit of thing. I like the narrative. I like the visual style of I've thrown a piece of dynamite at someone, or an explosion has just happened nearby on the pitch, because I quite like the idea of the miners sneaking out onto the pitch beforehand and just laying some charges. That's the cool concept. My inner Blood Bowl Goblin player likes that idea. But it's not that. It's not that. It's not target enemy model. It's not Deadbolt, and this is having to go back to the wording and then getting this clarified before we come to speak to you. It's not target enemy model. You do not target an enemy model. You just do a thing and then choose a model within 6, so you don't roll the dice. So all of a sudden, that one cost character play becomes incredibly efficient. And also because it doesn't target an enemy model, it entirely gets around resilience. This is so good. This is just like...
It's definitely the most surprising and interesting thing on our card.
Yeah.
Because it's something we haven't really seen before, and I'm fascinated to see if that's a theme of this guild or just her thing.
Yeah. Also, just like little things of, I can use this against Hammer and then walk up to him and spang him in the face with a shovel and get that momentous push on 2, and away he goes. Like, that doesn't seem... Or just, I'm going to use Controlled Explosion, push Hammer, your Stoic's gone for the turn.
Yeah. There's just a lot of good things.
I'm just going to burn real early in the turn, use your Stoic. For 1 influence, just to take away an opponent's piece of what is, and on many of those models, a key piece of tech, that's good.
She feels like the perfect model to describe as easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah, she kind of feels in the same kind of slot as Ebb for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, we talked about Ebb a lot on the Navigators series, how he has to be a target because I can't. I think I said I can't be arrogant enough to assume you're going to be bad with him.
Yeah.
Because he just does so much. So we've already talked about in many ways close control on the reverse. Who doesn't like a striker with close control? And then, of course, the guild rule secret tunnel. 15 health. That feels a lot.
Yeah. That's obscene. That's 3 health more than an average 4-1 striker.
Yep.
And she has 2-inch reach.
Yeah, I can remember when Harriet came out. Every time people objected to Harriet, and yes, she has been tweaked down slightly into Season 4, it would be diddle-diddle-diddle, sucker punch this, diddle-diddle-dee, can't catch a range that, and it would end with, and she's 16 health. Like, it's another player on Engineers that I have to chew through. And, you know, it's right there on the card, and we found out at SteamCon, Spade can play for Engineers as well.
Yeah, which is why I was looking at those character plays going, oh, Hoist.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yes, Hoist we've seen bouncing around with Burrow for a
Diggy
while.
Hole on Hoist is going to be fun.
Exactly.
You can basically do the Mother thing without the
need for Mother
setup.
Well, just not having Mother, because all of a sudden Mother has fallen out of favour. It is all about mainspring these days, and I get why. Like, Thief on 1, that's hilarious. Long Bomb for free, Launch Control, those are all really, really good things. So that nonsense, part of the nonsense that you could do with Hoist with Mother around, you can now do with Spade around, and you don't need nest markers to be able to do it. All right, it's not quite as far, in that it's not a 4-inch range, rather it's a 2-inch place rather than a 4-inch range place. All the same, it's going to provide the same kind of functionality of getting him out of combat. Now, admittedly, we're not seeing Hoist as much these days, but that is still a phenomenal piece. Equally, Controlled Explosion. Just so good.
If you want to send her off on the goal run, you can just have Hoist do your Controlled Explosion.
Yeah. The other thing I really like about, I think of the three of us, I've played Engineers the most. I'm really curious. I suspect the answer is no. But I don't think that Controlled Explosion is going to what's the word I'm looking for? Synergize with Ballista's Momentous Inspiration. Because
I don't think so.
Because I don't hit an enemy model. Like we've already.
It's not a successful play, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought Momentous Inspiration had to do damage anyway.
I
think so, or is that Theron's?
Yeah, no. You're absolutely right. It's causes damage. Yeah, it's the Blessing of the Sun Dad or whatever. No, it's no Sunstrike. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the one.
Actually, I could be wrong. None of us play.
I always mix those up.
So she's not going to have interaction there. However, Ballista can shoot 10 inches. Mainspring can pass 8 inches. Velocities, whichever one you want, can shoot 8 inches. Salvo can shoot 8 inches. That's an awful lot of long-range goal threat.
Yep. And just one thing we kind of brushed by that I want to cover.
Oh, yeah.
She's the first 2-inch reach striker with close control. She's not the first 2-inch reach model with close control, but she is the first striker.
That's
true.
And
for a long time, I would say the only good 1-inch strikers were ones with close control. And although I don't think that's true anymore, the fact is that with 1-inch reach, close control kind of allows you to get in, get the tackle, and shoot. Whereas she kind of gets the best of both Mist and Flint's world in that way, where she can charge in against 1-inch reach models, get the tackle, but she also, if she needs to, she can charge into like a 2-inch reach unpredictable model into base and then still get the tackle and not worry about the counter attack. She's her scoring threat has weaknesses, mainly in that her upper end playbook results just aren't that impressive. There's no tackle, double dodge, or double push, double dodge, or where'd they go. But that tackle's pretty reliable, and it's so hard to nullify when you've got 2-inch reach and close control. Not to mention you can just walk out of people's melee ranges with it, and then save your diggy hole for when you need to go into a different place you don't want to walk.
Yeah. If this guild has any kind of you can charge for free or you can do a character play for free, so it's like Beaker Keeper or things like that, or even condition redistribution.
Mm-hmm.
She is going to be something else, because at the moment the only thing really limiting her is her influence, in my mind. Like she will worry about other close control models, like the standard, what the roll better lads refer to as like a lament configuration style setup.
Yeah, see, that's her big weakness for me, and this is not uncommon. The majority of strikers struggle with that, is that she won't be able to get the ball off the really good ball killers because she doesn't really have any tech to get around it. But not knowing what we know about miners, we do know that they are getting Salvo, and Salvo does bring good technology for getting that stuff open.
Yeah, and Colossus. Well. Who is equally phenomenal right now. One interesting thing to note when I talked about that fabled lament configuration in the blacksmiths, reinforced plating will do nothing against controlled explosion. Requires a hit.
Mm-hmm. Having mentioned Colossus, I just realized engineers can now run 4 close control models.
Oh,
that is dire.
So who's that? What, Velocity, Spade, Colossus, and Pinvice? Yeah, Pinvice, the close control model that everyone forgets. Then again, you thought she was an 8-inch kick, so
I never forgot the close control because I've played against her with Shark enough.
Yeah. I suppose. Like, Spade's going to benefit quite nicely from Pinvice's changes. The fact that she isn't Mechanica, so she can be made into a 6/8 move. I don't think you'd give her deletion. But Controller's
quite interesting because she's got such a long goal threat. She can be one of the perfect ones to just get the ball to Controller, immediately score.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't unheard of when I was playing Pinvice as part of that 20 captains in a row challenge that I did last year. Thanks, John. For me to go, you can have Alternator, you can have Controller, off you go. Velocity goes and gets the balls and scores. I've used my first activation, has in fact been 2 activations and 9 influence, but I'm 4-0 up. And I've got a nimble Velocity stood in cover for you to go and flail at if you want. So I can see her doing similar things in that regard. She's quite nasty, and I don't know. I don't think she's going to be an auto take for engineers.
No, I don't. I think they already have 2 really, really strong strikers that do a similar thing, and I think you can run her and a Velocity, but there's so many good squaddies in engineers with Colossus and Salvo and Ratchet that I think most of the time you're going to see one of Spade or a Velocity. I don't think you're going to see both a ton. But I do think it makes 3-0 engineers much more viable.
I think it gives them a lift. I have to say, I think she is, and I'm prepared, this long-time colleagues and friends of Connor's and I may remember a very long time ago we used to do a podcast called High Fidelity, in which we talked about Malifaux when we played Malifaux before we came across the Guild Ball community. And without fail, at some point during that episode, I would say something that most of the world would disagree with, and a lot of people would then tell me why I'm wrong. I submit to you that I'm about to do the same thing, which is this. Lord. She has more value to engineers than any of their current union choices.
I don't disagree with you. This is unusual.
As much as I like gutter in engineers, as much as I liked taking rage in engineers when engineers were my team, I think she does more than those 2 folks did. Because although I did take them, they were sideboard players. They weren't flex slots. I had a couple of occasions when I would use them, which was mainly rage, which was, I'm going to give you 1 influence, go and stab someone and make me 4 momentum.
Yeah, I think I'd still take Gutter over her, to be honest, because Gutter brings something more outside of the color pie. But I do think she is very good. I'm very curious to see what the breakdown between her original velocity and veteran velocity ends up being. Because I think if you're trying to do a mixed game where you're fighting and scoring, veteran velocity really helps that out.
Oh, I love
veteran velocity. I think if you need to
velocity,
kill the ball, original velocity is better, and original velocity is more survivable after a goal. But Spade has 2-inch reach, which the faction struggles with, is more mobile, and has controlled explosion. And controlled explosion is just hard to judge in a vacuum.
It tells me I can put one influence on her and get something useful out of her turn.
Yeah. Although I think she's going to end up being a lot more influence hungry than either of the velocities.
Yes.
Because she is quite slow if you don't... not slow, but she's a lot slower the less influence you put on her. Like moving just over 9 inches, would it be 7 inches? Would be her place walk, basically. So moving 7 inches.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, it's not going to be exactly because, of course, you're doing a 30 mil rather than a 2.5, 25.4.
Yeah, so 7 inches ish versus you put 2 more influence on her and she goes another 5 inches.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like grayscales in that way, where you always kind of want at least one influence on her.
How many models do you compare to grayscales? That's hilarious.
None of them ever measure up.
What? Not even Vetsicana?
Eh.
Yeah, I think Spade brings something very different to the two velocities, though. I mean, looking at her, janky strikers are my thing. I like to think, and she will score goals that they can't. If there's a scrum forming in front of the goalpost, this girl just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He just hop in, do some stuff, and then hop back out again on the other side of it.
She will also miss more goals than them, which is something to think about, because they're both 3-8 kicks, and she is a 3-8 kick. But I do think she's really good, and she might end up being vastly better than them. I might be underestimating how powerful those places are on the board. But I think, engineers are finally getting to the point where they really are like Fish or Alchemists, where they have that many strikers, which is kind of what they've always supposed to have been, but for a long time kind of weren't.
I like the idea that, if I'm going up against, I'll give you an example. I played again last week against a chap who was playing Union against me. He put down Mist, and even before he put down Mist, in my head I'm going, right, Mist is going to be in the team because that's a reasonably safe bet to make. And you could probably do the same thing if you're expecting football from Masons with Flint and things like that. So, you can usually hazard a guess. Some people are just known for using particular strikers. Like, how long did Dave Cameron use Mist for? Connor, I know you're probably going to play Grayscales against me.
I love Grayscales.
Ben, I know Vitriol is most likely going to be on the pitch. Of course, it's not a guarantee, but I know that these things are probably coming. So, your opponent declares a team, and I'm like, okay, Union, Mist is going to be there. I need to deal with Mist. I need to consider that in my formation setup. How do I deploy? I'm already thinking, how do I deal with what you're going to do? I'm thinking about what I'm going to do more, probably, because that's how I play, but I'm factoring that in. My opponent goes Engineers. Which of the 5 available goal threats do I now start teching against in my draft? There's so many of them. There's so many options. Even if right down to the last pick, you think, well, Velocity and Salvo are already on the pitch. I'm probably not going to see Spade. Wait, no, there's Spade. It's entirely possible, and I think that's very cool. Yeah. That I don't know where, that goal threat on Engineers, and probably for Miners to a lesser extent, I would imagine, seeing as they already have access to Spade and Salvo, and let's be honest, Colossus has caught me out with goals on numerous occasions, especially the way...
Yeah, that's an interesting lineup already.
Yeah.
And I think you could see those 3 models playing together in the Major Guild, which is a good sign for the Minor Guild.
100%. I'm
super curious to see what else we get
Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to be until we next see something, but certainly this is they've peaked on my radar of what do you do kind of a thing. I guess in the same way that Navigators were. I didn't have the same. I've not had the response to this that you had to Navigators.
Mm-hmm.
No minor guild has really leapt off the page and grabbed me 100% yet. They've all been kind of like, oh, you're a nice idea. I had a point I wanted to make, and it's completely gone. But
yeah, I mean, for me, these are the first minor guild that I've gone, I must have that. I mean, apart from Order, because frankly, I've been playing them for 18 months under the Union guys anyway.
You've been playing them before they were a thing, so that's fair.
Yeah, but I love the aesthetic. Okay, I don't like the tank. I think it's a bit silly, but hey, let's see what it does before I leap to even more judgments.
I kind of hope it's bad. I'm not gonna lie.
The thing is...
if this is what we can expect from minors, I'm reaching Connor Navigator levels of yes please, gimme.
I'm also happy that we're getting another football-y guild coming soon.
Yep.
There's a lot of really interesting ones out there now.
And that's good because that is the game ultimately. That's
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I remember the point I wanted to make. Engineers to me have always been a team which have a tremendous amount of synergy. And they have a great plan A, and when that plan A doesn't work, they tend to fall off. And I'm curious where Spade fits into that. Is it going to be a case where she's a little bit more like Rundas, where she doesn't need other people to have given her stuff to be able to do things? Because I still think Rundas is a very good model, even if Falconers need a little bit of help. And so I'm really curious to see, can she do stuff on her own? And I think she can.
Well, I think the ability to just push people out of her so she never has to be TAC 3 is probably going to help a lot with that.
Yeah, that's fair. Equally, just going, hey, Tenderizer, you're not 4 inches in front of the goal. So I'll not have that -1 to my kick. Or +1 to the target number difficulty. Just little things like that I think are really, really solid. Or moving your opponent so that they can't move or can't dodge or can't shadow-like and things like that. There's some
moving your opponent's model to block their own charge lanes.
Yeah.
There's just a lot you can do with it.
100%. Or, you put, if you've got some cover to one... Oh, no, that wouldn't work. But let's say, you got marbles and brick on the pitch, and it's just like, no more Gone Ape.
Although I will say, for a model that already isn't really seeing play, this kind of feels sad for Locus. It's kind of his only thing he really did that no one else in the team did was push people at range.
He also does damage when he does that, but it is a character play, so
it can miss.
Yeah, they can miss, but it can also proc resilience, which is sometimes useful.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna have a tough time making the 12 at the moment.
Yeah,
especially with I would want Spade and both velocities in mind personally.
Yes, and I don't know who the play up model is. But for pure speculation and with no other information, I'm going to assume it's the tank. Because
you are wrong again.
Yeah, I'm siding with Panzer on that one.
Because we saw it. We saw it at SteamCon.
Yeah, but we saw
SteamCon.
We saw Azimuth before we saw Fathom.
That is true. All right. Oh, this does play nicely into all the minor guilds have a nice big model that kind of exemplifies them. They've got a tank.
Well, all the minor guilds. Every single relevant minor guild.
Big guy.
Yep. Several of them.
Yep.
Definitely not one guild sadly left out.
No. Poor Falconers. In no way will my tank be painted in Liverpool colours. Seems reasonably fitting. Or a Mac number plate. That also seems... The great thing, I love the tank. I'm going to be the one positive voice about the tank, because the thing I like about the tank the most is you can speculate any rule in the game and it could have it. You could justify it. Like, name a rule. What?
I was going to say, I just like the tank for trolling purposes. Like, I can either confirm nor deny I'm planning a goalpost with a banner that says Fisher is not the first tank in Guild Ball.
Nice. Like, you could, like, Armour 5. Yep, that seems reasonable. Close control. Yep.
I don't know about reasonable. I would say feasible.
Feasible.
Feasible seems a strong choice.
Feasible. Stoic. Yep, I could believe a tank has stoic. Sturdy. Yeah, all right, fair enough. You know,
I'm still surprised a bear isn't very sturdy, though.
The bear fights on 2 back paws.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm detecting a lot of salt coming from Connor's end of the line at the moment.
Yeah, not a big fan of the tank choice.
It's because we're not talking about fish. That's all it is.
It's kind of the funny thing is I've always liked all the other models that people have thought was too far. Like I loved Ferris, but yeah, not feeling the tank. It still feels a little out of place to me.
I mean, that already endears it to me because it's just going to tilt people by me putting the model down.
That is true. And I do love tilting.
Dice in Age of Sigmar.
Say again?
Much like the squig dice in Age of Sigmar, they just appear
hilarious.
and people lose their mind.
They're hilarious. Oh, I love the entitlement. You can't use those dice. I do believe I can.
Yeah,
we went through this. We went through this in Malifaux. There were banned card sets.
Yeah, and TOs are welcome to do what they want, but you know it's a model.
Yep.
They can't ban the tank. The thing that is going to get me, because what I quite like, if you've got a Locus or if you've got a Colossus or a Colocus, as I have, Compound's a really good example of this. When you put it on the model, and when you put it on the table, it makes a really nice, satisfying thud. Or Vet Catalyst, he's good for that. You know, it's the kind of model where if your opponent really irritates you, you could beat them to death outside with it. Not that I'm suggesting you should. It's going to be made of PVC plastic. A light breeze is going to move this tank.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, actually.
I may have to put some like shot in it or something. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, right, back to Spade. Gentlemen, I think we've waxed lyrical about a model that we know nothing about other than what's on the card, so well done. Yep. Is there anything you wish to add before we sign off for this one? No? Lovely. Cool. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Connor, Panzer, for joining me at such short notice. As ever, I need a better outro. Born underground, suffered from a cheat of stone, raised in